It's going to be a bloodless coup, Yin whispered to Midoriya beside her. No one will die. It's a fine afternoon, and Yin has taken the lecture to stroll into the gardens. On her way there, she spotted Midoriya and asked him to come with her since she also plans to tell him the details of her coup. Last night, she wasn't able to fill him in because he immediately walked away when he declared his participants. It may be his nerves. I'm glad to know that I'm not participating in a bloodbath, Midoriya whispered back. No, I'm not like my husband, Yin said, looking behind them to see if anybody is nearby. How exactly are you going to take his throne? I will make him abdicate. That will request a lot of support from the higher-ups, Yin. Yes, I've thought about that, she whispered. The favor of the nobles, the church, the council, and the military? Yes. Midoriya nodded, satisfied. Not to mention, we must find something to pin on him to make him abdicate. I'm afraid the military won't be enough considering how powerful Kashan is with his quirk. He must commit treason so we can make him abdicate. Yin sighed. Yes, I've thought about that as well. I also thought of a military on my side. That would be enough to force him into abdicate, but it seems that we need more effort. There was a pause. Yin then stopped and faced Midoriya. She looked around again, just to make sure. If I have the opportunity, Midoriya, I will make sure to use it. He has a lot of enemies, not just from his own subjects, but from other kingdoms as well. I do hope that this will work, Yin, Midoriya said. We will make this work, she pressed, determined. Who else is in on this? Uraka, she answered. For now, it's just you and her. Midoriya nodded. He made a thinking face inside. We should probably start gaining some allies. Yin nodded. Let's start with General Aizawa, he added. With him, we can get half the whole army on our side. Yin's lips curved into a thankful smile. Thank you, Midoriya. Then she beckoned him to start walking again, the smile still playing on her lips. They started when they reached the palace, and Yin still couldn't believe that Midoriya was finally decided to join. She doesn't know what exactly changed his mind, but she bet that it has something to do with her accumulation in the south. Then Bakugou was so torn when she helped his very friend Uraka. But now, Yin does not care what his reason may be. She's grateful that Midoriya decided to help her. When Yin went back to her chambers, she instantly smiled as she saw her brunette back to her normal attire, back on Yin's side. Your Majesty, Uraka greeted with a grin. Yin said nothing and only went up to the brunette to scoop her up in a tight hug. I'm glad you're all right, Yin whispered. Uraka returned the embrace and melted in it. She smiled softly. Thank you, Yin. It feels like everything is falling into place, and Yin couldn't be more happier as the things she has received right now. She just wishes that everything would be as easy, but of course, in the court of Bakugou Katsuki, it's not always fair and easy. The next day, Yin walked around the palace in dread when midnight called for her. As she was walking all the way to the noble's chambers, she was wishing that Midnight wouldn't talk about what Yin thinks she wants to talk about. How are you, dear? I heard Yuri assaulted you the other day. Good heavens, I thought that man was having enough pleasure by sleeping around with anyone in the palace. But to think he'd be so stupid to come at you, Midnight stated, stirring her tea as she sighed in distress. I am all right now. He's gone. So I've heard. Bakugou kicked him out. He was molested your friend, Uraka. Thank God he's out of here for good. Yes. Yin nodded and decided to shift the topic, not wanting to dwell on about Lord Yuri. There is something you want to discuss with me? Midnight took a sip of her tea and gently put it down. Yin's tea remained untouched as she waited for the elder woman, although she already has a guess what Midnight wanted talked about. I bet you already know what I'm going to discuss with you. Yin sighed tiredly and almost slumped in her seat. She grew tired of this conversation already. Midnight, I'm telling you, things aren't exactly that easy between us. But you two are married. You were brought here for the sole purpose that you should give birth to his heir, Midnight pressed. Yes, but you must understand that we are married without knowing anything about each other. We were married, yes, but we're still strangers to each other. I know a lot of people who made it work, Yin. We are not a lot of people. It just so happens that him and I aren't compatible. Midnight raised a brow. You say that, but you two are similar in some ways. Ways like what? Yin asked. For example, you are both so stubborn, so much that you two aren't making any effort to actually lower your prides. Forget all your issues and actually work like how people expect you. Yin remained silent, seeing at this point Midnight is right. The people expect two great things from both of you. 1, to deliver the kingdom into greatness, and 2, to continue the monarchy by having heirs. Yin sighed. She straightened her back and grabbed a macaroon to stuff her mouth. Where have you been these past few days anyway? I haven't seen you. Yin changed the topic again. I traveled to the south, Midnight said. They aren't that bad after all. I decided to visit them after their defeat, only to find out they know all sorts of fun as well. I'm glad you think so. Yin smiled, knowing what the lady meant, bringing her cup to her lips. Yes, they have orgies as well. Yin nearly choked on her tea. It was kind of weird. The different kinds of panethrisms I'm not familiar with, but they were enjoyable. I had a great time. Yin placed her cup down and coughed. Oh, but don't think I've forgotten what we're talking about, dear. Midnight sharply said. You and Bakugou need to keep talking. Sighing, Yin slumped in defeat. She felt like a child being scolded on what she should do. Understood. Little did Yin know that she should really take Midnight's advice a little seriously. Even with her vow to never get pregnant unless the coup becomes successful, she would find out that she should at least show the people that they're trying. It was the next day that she marched into their private dining room. She saw Midnight, Kirishima, Mina, and Bakugou discussing. Yin was about to greet them, if not for the scowl on Bakugou's face. What happened? She asked. Kirishima and Mina snickered. Midnight gave them a pointed look, then she handed a parchment to Yin. She looked at the parchment, and there is a drawing of her and Bakugou. The blonde was not drawn like the mighty king that he's supposed to be, but the drawing depicted a frail-looking Bakugou crying, his hands covered his part down there, while Yin is lying on bed with a very disapproval expression, her hand shooing Bakugou away. She was confused at first, but then she read the letter underneath it, and it says that the king is a, wuss. She gasped and looked between Midnight and Bakugou. Who would do such a thing? I don't fucking know, Sparkles, but if I find out who are spreading these goddamn lies, I'm fucking having their heads on a platter, the blonde yelled, his hand repeatedly slapping on the table, some cultures falling, and no one cared on Bakugou's temper is the concern of now. She found multiple copies of flyers underneath his fist. Some are crumpled and some were torn. Some had burn marks on them. Apparently, those flyers have been spread around town. Everyone is calling him a wuss, unable to accomplish his moral duty. Midnight exclaimed. I am not a wuss. Midnight ignored him while Mina and Kirishima tried to calm him down. They couldn't help but still snicker at the flyers as well, though. Is this how everyone imagined our marriage? Ian asked. Unfortunately, yes, Midnight answered. It's been months since your betrothal and no heir. The people are starting to lose their trust and hope towards you both, and start to ridicule you. Yin put the flyers down and looked at Bakugou, who was still glowering. Put this shitty flyers away. Dump them in a pile of shit, have the pigs piss on them, and fucking burn them to ashes, he ordered to Kirishima, and the redhead collected all the flyers. He gave one last look at the flyers again and let out another snicker together with Mina. This is fucking serious, Yin. The people are starting to lose respect. Midnight whispered to Yin. Yin sighed. All right, I'll start to get us together to try, she amused, but not entirely genuine about it. Oi, what are you two whispering about? Bakugou's voice pulled them apart and Yin smoothed her dress. Midnight went around to the other side of the table to seat. Let us not mind the flyers for now. I will take care of it. And there is another more important thing we have to discuss, Midnight said. All right, it's coming, Bakugou said, and he leaned back in his chair. Yin sat down and started on her breakfast. What's coming? Midnight then answered. The Summer Solstice Festival. The Summer Solstice Festival is an autumn festival celebrated in Igneous, Yin. We've been celebrating it for years, and a lot of people from other kingdoms gather here every year, Midnight explained to Yin as they walked. She couldn't help but be affected by the courteous grin Midoriya has on his face as he talked about it. It's going to be fun. There are a lot of participants to do, but it's going to be worth it. Right now, they're on their way to the throne room as they called by Bakugou. Starting today, they are going to start the preparations for the festival, and Yin was told that her and Bakugou would have a lot of preparation work to do, but they were assumed that they're going to be assigned. I've read about it in History of Igneous. There also is going to be a feast, am I right? Yes, there are also parades on the street. Oh, you and Kachan will participating in at some point. So I've heard from Midnight, she nodded, and I also heard from Uraka that the celebrations may last for a week. Ian heard a lot about the festival from many people in the court, as it is an enduring topic of now. Everyone is thrilled about it. Yin must admit she's excited about it too. It may even last longer than that. People here in Igneous like to party. We didn't have much longer celebrations when Kachan started ruling, but now it seems that Midnight has managed to convince him. Well, that makes it more exciting, I guess. But of course, the preparations must be heavy, she sighed as they stopped in front of the doors to the throne room. But it's going to be fun. Midoriya smiled again before he opened the doors and stepped in. As soon as they stepped foot in the throne room, the preparations for the summer solstice began. For the many days that came by after that, Yin found herself accompanied by the amount of work and preparations required. She's not alone because Bakugou is busy with it as well. She noticed that he has much more work than her, though. Midoriya wrote a lot of the letters of invitations to all the neighboring and allied kingdoms of Igneous. Baku decided not to send one for Glacier, though. He swears not to. Yin thinks it's also for the better because she did not exactly want a bloodbath to happen during the joyous occasion. She helped Midoriya with the letters, then her and Bakugou signed the letters. Kirishima and Kaminari went to deliver them. They've been gone for days, traveling to different kingdoms to deliver the invitations. Yin was assigned with preparating the feast together with Midnight, while Bakugou handles more political stuff. Speaking of Midnight, she also has been going out and trying to find out a source of the funny flyers. As everyone would have called it, apparently it has spread all over the court. Midnight hasn't found out who made the flyers yet, and she's frustrated about it. However, she asked someone about the flyers and where they got it. Most of them would say they found it, littered on the streets. Midnight is livid. Of course she hasn't told Bakugou that the flyers have been spreading a lot more. She has a lot more important things to do, and after then to consider himself with the trivial drawings that everyone found so funny for some reason. She's trying to contain the situation while keeping it a secret from both Yin and Bakugou. For difference in the court people, though, more of them know about it now, and Midnight feared it won't be long before the noisy nobles would address it to the royal couple. I love my job, Midnight kept saying to herself as she walked towards the throne room, where a meeting with Bakugou, Yin, and higher-ranking nobles will be held to arrange the events for the parade. She walked in soon. The meeting started. Yin started to enjoy the whole preparation thing. Although tireless, she got actually move around, do stuff, and she likes it when she's busy. And then there's the meetings for the parade. Bakugou approached her about it and told her she should speak in a meeting for him. She agreed, knowing that he didn't really like to speak with the nobles, which he considered as extras, and she also likes the fact that he's starting to trust her more in his work. This Yin did as well. Bakugou sat beside her, and he pitched in from time to time. She spoke of the plans, the nobles listened and pitched in some of their ideas. They converted every topic for the ceremony, the budget, and the rebel of the parade. Is there any more questions? Yin asked after the discussion ended, although she reckoned there is nothing more to discuss as they have already covered everything. Still, you can't be sure. Maybe even someone still has a question. But one noble raised his hand and Yin motioned him to continue. Now that we've done with discussing our preparations, Your Majesty, I would like to address another thing that I'm afraid it is completely not relevant to the preparations, he said. In fact, it considers both you and His Majesty. Yin felt her stomach chime, and she eyed Midnight, who also started to look nervous. What the fuck are you going to say, Extra? Bakugou said, his tone laced in annoyance. That is a sign that the noble should back down, but he didn't. The noble continued nervously. There's these flyers spreading around, sir, about you. It addresses your material duty, and how you have failed to achieve it despite months away from the day of your betrothal. I thought I told you to burn all those shitty flyers. Bakugou roared at Midnight. The woman nearly sighed and said nothing. And why the fuck are you still looking at those flyers, huh? From now on, all of you should take one glance at that damn drawing as when you find one and burn it. Although insulting, Your Majesty, what the flyers is depicting turned out to be true. Yen thinks the nobles should really stop by now. You cannot blame us, Your Majesty. We are merely concerned for we are not given any slight hope that an heir is coming. What will happen to the kingdom if an heir won't come? We have been asking for a positive result, Your Majesty. All of us wish to finally see an heir, and assure that this kingdom will continue. And I wish for you to shut your damn mouth. Bakugou snapped. Standing up, his chair shrieked onto the floor as he did so. You know all of you should mind your goddamn business instead of gossiping about poking your noses on other people's lives. But Your Majesty, sir, Yin interrupted before the man could dig his further grave. The topic has completely nothing to do with our agenda for today. If you have any concerns with just the two of us, I wish for you to approach us properly and in private. With all due respect, Your Majesty, everyone here is concerned of it, and I chose to open that topic for everyone to hear your assumptions that you two are indeed fulfilling your maternal duties. Everything takes time, sir, but I assure that we are not abandoning that side of our duty, and by God's grace, your sought heir will rise soon. Let us be patient, she assured the man. Takes time. One noble decided to butt in and scoffed. And this noble is a lot older, and he looks like he's been in this job for far too long that he is no longer afraid of the monarchs. It's been months since we left you two to yourselves, and there has been no results. Maybe the flyers are true. His Majesty is a wuss. Why you? Bakugou growled from beside you. She heard his footsteps, ready to give the old man a piece of his mind. Quickly, Yin placed a hand on his arm to prevent him from going further. He looked back to her with a glare, but did nothing to shake her arm off. Yin wanted to prevent any argument happening right now, since they have more important matters to discuss. My husband is not a wuss, Yin said. She does not like how ridiculous that sounded, and anyone else believing it. Clearly the flyers is meant to disrespect His Majesty, and all of you have done the same by believing those trivial drawings and cresting your own king. She breathed in. I will say this again. We are not abandoning our maternal duties, but as of right now, we have more pressing matters to discuss. A big occasion is coming, and here we are, picking at each other over some drawings. I would like it if you were to give some suggestions for the upcoming parade. There was a pause, and Yin slowly let go of Bakugou's arm. She relaxed when he stood still as she let go. Once again, she thought, it's all over. The older noble spoke again. Then prove it, Your Majesty. How did it come to this? Yin thought. She was once again brought back to the same situation she had experienced that night after the wedding. The most ridiculous proposal ever made. This probably is. This ceremony where the court people are to see off their king and queen to bed just to make sure they will fulfill their maternal duty. It is both presuming and ridiculous. All of you get out now, Bakugou spat. Apparently when the older noble from the meeting back then decided to ask for proof, he meant another one of this ceremony just to prove it. He really knows how to pursue both Yin and Bakugou now. That everyone had done this ceremony this second time, the nobles will be demanding more and will expect a full positive outcome of this ceremony. They would think that it would be long before Yin and Bakugou are to produce an heir. This is utterly uncomfortable. Well then, good night, Your Majesty. The noble bowed to Bakugou. He then turned to Yin and addressed her with a bow as well. Everyone either did a curtsy or bow before they all went. Midnight was the last to remain. Good luck, she said before disappearing, a smile on her face. She accidentally preferred this as well. Bakugou stood up, went to the door, and slammed it as hard as he could. Yin is positive she felt the whole damn chamber shook. Well, they're gone now. What a relief. Yin sighed, finally feeling the tiredness after a day of working about the palace. The old man really knows how to get his way to pursue us both. Next time, let's not entertain them. The blonde slid slumping down onto a sumptuous chair. He started to massage his temples. You're right. We have enough work for this month. I don't really want to face them now, or ever again. Yeah, but you see them leeching in the court everywhere. You can't get rid of them no matter how damn annoying they are. Best thing to do is avoid them as much as possible. Yin sighed and slumped back on the pillows to rest her back. They stopped worrying about it last time, though. It's those damn flyers, Bakugou muttered before standing up. You should go to your chamber, Sparkles. They're all gone. The female sighed again. She heard what Bakugou said, but her body is too tired to even move right now. Walking around in the palace in her heeled shoes and heavy dress while signing lots of papers, and not to mention meeting which drained her earlier. You can't blame her for being tired. I really want to sleep right now, though. She trailed off, sinking further into the bed, and finally, a laying position. Why is his bed so comfortable? Yen thought to herself. That's why you should go to your room and sleep, he said, walking towards the small table in his room where a bottle of scotch rests. Get Roundface to accompany you, and... He trailed and turned when he no longer heard her reply. Bakugou's eyes widened a little when he saw that her eyes were completely shut, and the rise and fall of her chest indicated that she'd finally asleep. Damn it, Bakugou muttered and abandoned the alcohol. He leaned on the table and crossed his arms while facing Yin. Oi, Sparkles, he called, only to receive an audible hum. It is no use. Yin is already asleep in his bed, alone with him. To think that she would be this tired to let her guard down. Bakugou remained in his position and did not realize he started staring intently at her face. He drank every detail of her likeness without even knowing it. Her hair was undone and parts of it fell on her face. Bakugou wondered if that tickled her or not. Should he go over there and remove it? No, he thought to himself and shook his head. Bakugou pushed himself off the table and started to head to the door. He decided not to sleep here anymore, not out of dislike for Yin, but he's afraid that a certain feeling from inside him will surface again, and he won't be able to contain himself. So Bakugou decided to go to his study and got himself occupied by his work once again. Damn you, Yin, he thought while he worked. Not a moment after he started to sort out some papers again. The door of his study opened and a person with a silhouette of a woman entered. He recognized her. What the fuck are you doing here? Going in without knocking? Lady Erica's mouth agape as she curtsied. I am so sorry, Your Majesty. I thought that you would want to. He cut her off. No. Your Majesty? I said no. He repeated again and looked up to see her face shown disappointment. Bakugou wondered what she was disappointed of. She should not expect more from him. The fact that she's just here to dismiss his frustrations caused by the woman who is clearly sleeping on his bed right now. Lady Erica should not expect more. That's what he thought. Understood, Your Majesty. If you need anything, you'll be able to call me anytime. Without saying anything, Bakugou watched her go out. Once he was left on his own again, he sighed and slumped in his chair. Woman, he sighed. Guys, next chapter, I'm giving you guys a hint because it is some spicy shit. But next chapter, be ready for both Lady Erica and Lady Kimmy.